Well, you bring up a really interesting thing, because when you start to look at the magicians, what are they? Okay, these magical practitioners, they're a type of priest in a sense. They're medicine men and women. But really, these are people who are engaging in almost a scientific type of praxis. And all across the ancient worlds, you have these figures. They're going out and they're making potions, right? They're trying, they're saving all this information. They're in the act of doing. So you get this kind of skepticism. You get this kind of understanding out of these forms of religion, out of these forms of spirituality, which are connected to the earth, which are connected to healing, right? Which are trying to actually bring about change in the real world, right? We have to remember that people are always as smart as they have been, you know? Right. And that the smart doctors of now would have been medicine men and women doing drugs and cutting roots in the past.
The reason why I'm bringing up Puro, right? This comes back to the topic of this video. Think about this. I'm going to throw out a wild theory right now. Because think about this. What is Judaism? It's the religion of the Old Testament, right? I'm just being real brief about real basic. It's obviously more nuanced than that, right? But just the religious text of Judaism is the Tanakh, Torah, the Old Testament, right? Well, what's the story about how these books came about? Well, a lot of it comes from Alexandria, Egypt, where you have in the Ptolemaic Empire, they're putting together a whole list of books from Canaan and putting together this canon of text. Well, Alexandria, one of the biggest influences in Alexandria is Pyrrho. So it's like, could it be that Judaism is one of these branches of religion that come out of skepticism? Because think about this now. In Judaism, there is no, it's very skeptic about gods, first of all. Jews are charged with atheism by the polytheists. And you even have, like, for example, you have like Elijah taunting the priests of Baal and saying, where's your God at? Make him do something. Oh, he can't. That's right. He doesn't exist. These are like skeptic theologians. And another thing that the Sadducees, they have nothing on what hell or heaven is. They don't have anything about the afterlife because they don't know what it is. They don't claim to know. So I'm thinking, like, is the tradition of Judaism coming from a place of skepticism? Maybe.
I think you're onto something, right? But this connects to one of the theories that Dion brought up, which is that cult of Mars, the cult of the Temple of Mars, because this comes out of these philosophical military schools, okay? Because you got to remember, who are the philosophers advising? They're advising the generals and the emperors, right? This is the upper echelons of masculine society in these places. So to imagine that these kind of philosophies create this kind of patriarchal kind of Jewish sect that goes on to eradicate Asherah and eliminate the female, it connects there. And this is where these people who believe in this Temple of Mars thing go.
Well, I could take that a step further in that you said the name Elijah. Elijah, you can type in the references where he does this thing. It's you've heard of laying on hands to heal people. Well, they have a tradition of laying on boys, and that's what Elijah does. He lays down on top of a boy and mouth to mouth, face to face, does it 3 times to raise the dead boy. Elijah does that. And then Elijah has a disciple, Elisha. You have Elijah and Elisha, spelled Elisha, I'm probably not pronouncing anything correctly. And he does the same thing, where he lays down on top of dead boys and brings them back to life. Even Paul does it. You could just falls out the window and Paul lays down on top of them and brings them back to life.
Right.
And with the Elisha, there's another story where he's walking and some kids are making fun of him. They're making fun of him. They say he's bald, his bald head. And you know what he does? He summons 2 bears to kill the kids. That's in the Bible. We got to have some weird Bible stories because I know some people came for that.
Yeah.
We'll give them something.
Oh, that's one of those. And that's one of the stories that Celsus talks about. When Celsus is criticizing the Jews and Christians, he's like, dude, your God is a monster. He sent she-bears after
Yeah,
after
she
some
bears.
because they call his prophet a baldy. Even the Gnostics, Marcion of Sinop brings this up. He makes the same argument. He said, "There's no way that the Old Testament God is the good God, that good creator. He's not.
And you
he's
notice you
younger."
said she bear. You said she bear. Why do they make it a she bear? I noticed that. Why is it a
I
female?
forgot about that.
Because that's a non-maternal instinct for the mother to kill the kids.
Oh,
We're back to the rim.
that's so crazy. You're so right about that. That's so true.
Right. And you
Mama
talked
bear.
about how evil this God is. This is also why look at who the Romans are identifying the Jewish God with. Saturn, right?
Yeah.
They're identifying him with the castrated, angry male. And
you have some Roman writers in the second century BCE that think that it's Jupiter Sabbatios.
Yeah.
Right.
I showed that in my video. What was the guy's name? I'm pulling it up right now. It's from Valerius Maximus. He thinks that oh, and there's a super chat about that. I just saw that. Hold on, let me pull it up. Yaku, thank you for your super chat. Bible is Sabbatian mysteries made into Platonic monism. The Bible characters have Bacchic names. Yaakov, Yosef, Sabbath, Rebecca, like Rebecca, Isaac. This is actually interesting because you have Tacitus saying that Tacitus thinks that when Pompey the Great raided the temple, they found a ivy diadem, and that's something that Bacchus would wear.
Right.
Is this some
ancient
version
The
of
crown of Jesus would have been? They're saying it would have been ivy.
But you also get that thing when they raided the Holy of Holies. What did they find? But a man riding a donkey. Dionysus is always
that was a
man
different
riding
raid.
a donkey.
That was a different raid. That was Antiochus.
Yeah.
It gets ready to get. So that's interesting too. Dionysus also rides the donkey. Amazing point. Then later on, 200 years later, after Antiochus raids the temple, Pompey the Great raids the temple. What does he find? He finds an ivy diadem. That's it. So like a lot of these, and then Plutarch just comes out and says it. Plutarch just comes out and says the Jews worship an older form of Dionysus. That's been and so it's not the free father of like ecstasy, and it's a different older tradition about Bacchus. That's whatever this version is. Because you got to remember that in the ancient world, you have the gods that have the similar etymologies, but like their traditions are different, and they have different stories about them. They have different qualities about them, but they have the name shows up again. Apollo has different traditions about him. You know what I mean?
You said Rachel and Isaac earlier.
That's what the person in the super chat.
All right, we'll give you some. We're going to give you some weird stories. If I hear a name from the Bible, I'm going to give you a weird story about it. So Rachel talks to Leah, and Leah wants to get with Jacob. That's her husband, and that's her sister. And she tells her sister, "You can get with them for some mandrake root. You get a night with the husband for some mandrake root." And now, mind you, Jacob had already got with the servant girls to make babies, and that's what got him jealous, and they wanted babies. Let's talk about Jacob and his brother Esau. Esau comes in from the field.
Esau is something a Bacchic chain too.
Yeah, comes in from the field, and he says, "Hey, what you cooking there?" And he goes, "I'm making the red soup." And they say it's red. It's a red drink. And he goes, "I'll trade you my birthright as the king, the king of Israel, future king of the whole thing. I'll trade you my birthright for some of that red soup, some of this red psychoactive drink." And he takes it, and they even make sure to tell you that it's red because it's Edom, the tribe of Edom, and it's a double entendre on the word red as well. And these are these psychoactive drinks, which could have been acacia or kermes or mollusk or, we got a different Sarkion, sure. And so he goes back into the field, and at that point, he goes to mom, and mom tells him, "Well, hey, it's time to get the birthright. So this is what I want you to do. We're going to cook a goat, and I want you to take it into Pops, Isaac." And he goes, "Well, Pops is going to know that it's not me because they're twins." And we talk a lot about twins being one masculine and one effeminate because we're going back to the original. This is the Garden of Eden, the rib and the gynomorph. Everything comes back to a male and female polarity that we're discussing. And so mom says, "Well, I want you to be the future leader, even though it's his birthright." And we even went to a soothsayer when she was pregnant, Rachel, because he was kicking in the womb. And she told him, well, hey, the first in that twin that comes out is not going to be the king as it should have been. It's the second one, the effeminate one. So while the older brother was out in the fields, the young twin was effeminate and stayed in the tents. And then so she cooks a magic goat for Pops and says, take this to him. And she says, well, he's going to know it's not me, because I'm not hairy. And Pops is blind. Isaac is blind. So what she does, she takes the goat skins and puts it around his neck and around his arms. So at that point, Jacob walks into the tent, gives the goat to his father, he eats it, and then the father fills him up and goes, oh, my son. It's his hairy son, with the goat skins on him. And he gives him his blessing, transfers a blessing to him. And then as soon as Esau comes back in the field, from the field, he's like, hey, what happened? And Pops is like, what happened? They tricked me. He goes, well, I can't give you the blessing anymore anyways because it's been drained from me. Like if it's actual power that he gives to him. And it's at that point that Jacob goes on to be, the boss man of everything and has sex with the servant girls. And then Rachel said, give me some mandrake roots and I'll let my sister give it them. And this is how you found that dynasty.